If you want to know which clans in Ryujin are actually worth keeping and which ones deserve an instant reroll, this tier list has you covered. Clans are a huge part of your character because they can give you passive stat bonuses, exclusive abilities, unique moves, and even change how your name appears in-game. The tricky part is that you get a random clan when creating your character, and with mythic, legendary, rare, uncommon, and common rarities, figuring out whether you just hit the jackpot or completely missed can be pretty confusing. So today, we're ranking all 44 clans across every rarity to see exactly which ones stand above the rest. We'll go from the strongest clans you should absolutely keep to the ones you probably shouldn't get too attached to, so you'll know what to aim for when you're re-rolling. Whether you're chasing a powerful mythic or just trying to figure out if your current clan is good enough, let's jump into the tier list and find out which clan deserves to stay. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking clans in Ryujin. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The clans in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dudley, Lihito, Su, Che, Akatsuka, Atsushi, Kohei, Sekibayashi, Tatsumi, and Yamashita. If a clan's biggest selling point makes you think, well, at least it does something, you already know we are deep into D tier territory. These clans are not completely useless, but most of them come with bonuses that are either too small, too specific, or simply outclassed by better options. First up is Lihito, who gives Razor's Showman 10% more damage and adds a bleed effect after completing a full M1 combo. Sounds decent until you notice the 20-second cooldown and how difficult it can be to land that full combo against evasive players. So unless you are specifically building around Razor's Showman, this rare clan is basically asking for a very specific playstyle just to give you a fairly narrow reward. Dudley has a similar problem. He gives Adam Dudley's MMA 10% more damage and increases knockback, but that extra knockback can actually push enemies out of your combo range. Congratulations Dudley, you improved the damage and made landing the damage harder at the same time. Che is another very situational pick, giving 10% more counter damage. The problem is that Hatsumi already does the counter-focused job better, and actually has mechanics that make counters more reliable, so Che is mostly something for early counter builds. Then we have Su, who increases money from all sources by 6%. It is useful for early money farming, but Akazawa gives a much better 15% job income bonus, so Su gets overshadowed pretty quickly. Kohei is even more niche, reducing the stat requirements for wrestling styles by 5%. It is a nice little quality of life bonus, sure, but it does absolutely nothing for your actual combat performance. Atsushi at least tries to bring some action to the table, giving you a 10% chance to gain a 30-second speed boost whenever you guard break an opponent. The issue is that a 10% proc chance combined with a specific condition is just too unreliable to matter in most fights. You could get the boost at the perfect moment, or you could spend the entire match wondering if Atsushi forgot what his own ability does. Sekibayashi gives a 5% increase to durability, which sounds reasonable until you compare it with Reinhold's stronger durability, scaling at the same tier. Akatsuka is even simpler, providing a 5% speed boost during combat. It is not bad, but it is such a small improvement that you are unlikely to feel like your character suddenly became a Formula 1 car. Yamashita gives jobs 7% more money, which is useful early on, but once again Akazawa walks into the room with a 15% job income bonus and makes Yamashita look like he brought pocket change to a bank robbery. And finally, we have Tatsumi, the unfortunate champion of the smallest damage bonus in the entire clan roster. Tatsumi increases boxing damage by just 2%. That is not a bonus that screams power, that is a bonus that quietly knocks on the door and asks if anyone noticed. So overall, these D tier clans can have some value in very specific situations, especially for early game farming or specialized builds, but most of them are simply too weak or too narrow to compete with the stronger clans in Ryujin. If you are re-rolling, these are definitely the names you will want to see less often. The clans in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Sawada, Alai, Dalishita Todoi, Reinhold, Zenin, Gizenga, Hanada, and Toba. Now we are entering the part of the list where the clans stop being completely forgettable and start giving you just enough value to make you think, okay, maybe I can actually work with this. C-tier clans in Ryujin can definitely be useful, but most of them come with a pretty obvious catch that keeps them away from the higher tiers. Starting with Sawada, this clan is all about kicking. It increases kick range, reduces kick end lag, and also boosts kick damage. So if your entire game plan is basically when in doubt, kick, Sawada has you covered. The problem is that all of its value is locked into one attack type. At rare rarity, that makes it much less versatile than Sano, which gives kick bonuses while also providing useful team benefits. Zenin is much more universal, increasing all stat gains by 5%. It works with basically any build and provides consistent value during progression, but that 5% bonus at uncommon rarity simply is not enough to compete with the stronger combat-focused clans. Doyle is a solid choice for newer players, increasing basic combat and street fighting damage by 7.5%. If you are still throwing hands with the basic styles, Doyle can definitely make those early fights easier, but once you unlock stronger fighting styles, its value starts falling off pretty quickly. Alai follows a similar idea, but focuses entirely on boxing with a 9% damage increase. That makes it slightly better than Doyle for boxing builds, but when Makinuchi is sitting there with a much stronger 15% boxing bonus at a higher rarity, Alai starts looking like the warm-up before the actual fight. Lee, meanwhile, increases fat gain by 10%, which can be useful for players working on fat-based builds before getting access to Takeru or Haruo. Outside of that specific situation though, there is not much reason to pick it. Gizenga takes specialization to another level, increasing the blinding status effect damage from blinding skills by 50%. 50% sounds absolutely ridiculous until you realize how incredibly specific the requirement is. If you are running a build centered around blinding skills, Gizenga can be pretty interesting. For almost everyone else, that bonus might as well be written in invisible ink. Toba has a more generally useful idea, giving light attacks a 5% chance to guard break. Unfortunately, a 5% chance is just too unreliable to consistently change the outcome of a fight. Sometimes it will work and you will feel like a genius, and sometimes you will throw light attacks for an entire match and wonder where your guard break went. Finally, Hanada reduces dash cooldown by 10%, giving mobility-focused players a useful little boost. The problem is that it is basically the baby version of what Mikazuchi offers at Mythic tier, so the effect feels rather small by comparison. And then we have Reinhold, who makes your character slightly taller and increases durability scaling by 2%. The extra height is certainly a statement, but unfortunately it is not much of a combat strategy. The durability bonus is also barely noticeable, especially at common rarity. So overall, C tier is filled with clans that can absolutely do their job, but usually only within a specific build or during the early stages of progression. They are usable. They are not terrible, but you will probably want to replace most of them once better options become available. The clans in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hatsumi, Biscuit, Hammer, Kaio, Moro, Sano, Takeru, Akazawa, and Hanayama. This is where the clans start bringing enough value to the table that re-rolling suddenly feels a lot more serious. B tier is packed with clans that can genuinely carry a build, and a few of them have some pretty ridiculous bonuses, but there is usually one little catch keeping them from becoming top tier monsters. Hatsumi is a great example of a powerful but specialized clan. It increases counter damage, reflects part of incoming attacks back at the opponent, enhances Aikido skills, and even gives access to Star Drop. For players who enjoy defensive, reactive combat and can consistently land counters, Hatsumi can be extremely strong. The problem is right there in the game plan. You actually have to land those counters. If your timing is questionable, Hatsumi can go from Master of Defense to Professional Punching Bag pretty quickly. Moro is much more forgiving, giving you evasive 20% faster, increasing the perfect block window by 0.1 seconds, and granting access to Bungee Gun Pull. That combination makes Moro arguably the best defensive toolkit available at rare rarity, especially for evasive and block-focused builds. Sano takes a completely different approach by putting almost everything into kicks and team economy. It increases kick damage by 10%, gives gang members 15% more money from districts, and grants access to nuclear kick. So if you are building around kicks, this is a very comfortable choice, and the extra district money is a nice bonus for the whole gang. Hammer is another clan with a passive that is useful regardless of what build you are running. It slows fatigue gain by a massive 50%, which is one of the most consistently valuable passives at rare rarity, especially during longer fights. It also gives access to the bite skill, so Hammer is basically telling your stamina bar, relax, we are not going anywhere. Biscuit is a strong option for physical builds, increasing muscle gain by 15% and muscle scaling damage by 10%. That makes it particularly useful throughout early and mid-game progression, although it eventually gets overshadowed by higher rarity muscle options such as Hanma and Wakatsuki. Takeru, meanwhile, is extremely specialized. It gives Sumo 10% more damage, extends all Sumo attack stun duration by 0.1 seconds, increases fat gain by 25%, and reduces fat loss by 15%. That is a lot of bonuses, but muscle scaling is reduced by 5%, so this is definitely a sumo or fat build clan rather than something you pick for general use. Hanayama is another defensive favorite, allowing you to remain at 1% health instead of being knocked out once every 2 minutes. On top of that, it increases durability gain by 10% and improves durability scaling by 5%, giving it some serious survival value for an uncommon clan. Akizawa is the obvious choice if your current objective is simply to become rich. It increases job money income by 15%, making it the best early game money generation passive at uncommon rarity. It may not help you punch harder, but your wallet certainly appreciates the effort. Finally, Kaio combines Kung Fu damage increases with reduced dash cooldowns and a temporary skill damage boost after a successful block or perfect counter. The kit is strong, but that extra damage requires precise timing, so it is not quite as consistent in fast-paced fights. Overall, B tier is where you start seeing clans that can comfortably support an entire playstyle. They may have limitations, but with the right build, these clans can be extremely effective and are definitely worth keeping until you find something better. The clans in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hanafusa, Makunuchi, Wakatsuki, Tokita, Haruo, Star, Choi, and Wongsawa. This is the point where Ryujin stops handing out pretty good clans and starts throwing actual monsters at us. A tier clans are powerful enough to define entire builds, speed up progression, or completely change how you approach combat, and honestly, some of these are only a tiny step away from S tier. Tokita is a fantastic hybrid option, increasing both strength and agility scaling while also charging the mode bar faster and boosting stat gains by 20%. That combination makes it excellent for fast builds that still want serious physical power, and its progression speed can compete with some mythic S tier clans. Star is even more of an all-rounder, increasing striking speed by 5%, running speed by 10%, fighting reflexes charging by 25%, and sub-skill effectiveness and duration by 20%. Add a 15% increase to stat gains and access to Darkness Blow, and you have one of the strongest legendary all-purpose clans around. Haruo, meanwhile, has one very specific mission: become unbelievably good at fat. It increases maximum fat by 100, fat gain by 10%, and fat scaling by another 10%, while also giving 10% increased stat gains and access to Body Slam. If your build revolves around fat, Haruo is basically your personal fitness coach, except the goal is to become as heavy as humanly possible. Choi is a fascinating case because its personal combat power is actually reduced by 15%, but in exchange, stat gains increase by 15% and districts can be captured as fast. At SSS Plus potential, it becomes an absolute gang support machine, boosting nearby gang members with 10% more damage, 5% more running speed, and 25% more district money. So individually, Choi is not trying to win every street fight, but as a team player, it is basically running the entire neighborhood. Wongsawa is much more combat focused, boosting both boxing and Muay Thai damage by 7.5% while allowing access to all skills from either style as long as one of them is equipped. It also increases stat gains by 10% and gives access to flicker jabs and god glow, making it one of the best legendary choices for players who refuse to choose between these two martial arts styles. Makunuchi is the boxing specialist of the group, giving a massive 15% boxing damage increase and providing triple jabs by default, which makes basic attacks and combos hit much harder. Its evolved rarity also gives it the highest stat gain potential among the A-tier clans. The catch is obvious: if you are not using boxing, a huge part of that value disappears. Hanafusa takes the support route by increasing healing effects by 15%, making it the strongest recovery-focused clan available. It also gives access to hosted virus and terminal stab, so you are not completely helpless when it is time to attack. Finally, Wakatsuki is a powerhouse for muscle-heavy builds, increasing muscle gain, reducing muscle loss, improving stat gains, and giving access to Blast Core for an extra offensive punch. However, its muscle scaling works best with a non-lean build, so players who prefer staying lean will not get the full value. Overall, every clan in A tier has a serious identity and a build it can dominate, but they fall just short of the overwhelming versatility or raw impact that we are about to see in S tier. The clans in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Wu, Yamazaki, Hanma, Kure, Mikazuchi, Park, Seong, and Jang. At S tier, we are no longer talking about clans that are simply good enough. These are the clans that walk into Ryujin, look at the rest of the roster, and basically ask why everyone else is even trying. The strongest options here combine incredible progression, combat power, survivability, and exclusive abilities, with Wu standing above the entire group as the current king of the roster. Wu is the ultimate all-rounder, giving 20% increased stat gains, improved muscle gain, and one of the best sustained mechanics in the game by recovering 0.75% hunger with every hit. That means you are progressing faster, becoming stronger, and constantly recovering hunger while fighting. On top of that, Wu has an exclusive combat toolkit that adds even more offensive options, making it incredibly difficult to find a build where this clan does not work. Yamazaki is another absolute monster, especially for karate players. Karate deals 15% more damage, fighting reflexes and the mode bar charge 20% faster, and its improved durability scaling combined with stacking damage reduction while being attacked gives it an incredibly strong defensive profile. Then you add Congenital Ultra Instinct and Kyokushin Karate, and suddenly Yamazaki has enough tools to make almost any opponent seriously reconsider throwing the first punch. Hanma is basically what happens when you combine raw muscle with a defensive tank. It provides 20% more muscle gain and scaling, improves durability scaling, and even reduces the enemy's damage when using grab attacks. So you are not only getting stronger physically, you are also making it harder for your opponent to hurt you. Park takes versatility to another level by allowing you to copy up to 2 skills simultaneously with a 20-second cooldown, and the copied skills last for 60 seconds while dealing increased damage. It also reduces all cooldowns by 10%, improves battle sense scaling by 50%, makes battle sense gain 25% faster, increases the perfect block window by 25%, and boosts stat gains by 20%. Oh, and it gives access to Ultra Instinct, just a tiny bonus casually sitting at the end of the list. Kure is another powerhouse, recovering 0.5% hunger per hit, while also making meaty food restore 25% more hunger. It increases strength scaling by 15%, durability scaling by 10%, and stat gains by 20%, while Kure's traditions and removal mode provide an additional layer of endgame combat power. Mikazuchi is the speed demon of S tier, reducing dash cooldowns by 0.4 seconds, consuming 25% less stamina, increasing agility scaling by 20%, and boosting strike speed by 7.5%. Its evasive ability also charges 7.5% faster and teleports you behind the enemy when activated, which is exactly the kind of thing that makes your opponent question whether you are fighting them or simply appearing in different dimensions. Ryujin style and Thunder God mode make it the strongest agility-focused clan available. Shong brings another completely different kind of insanity, automatically copying a skill at the cost of eyesight every 45 seconds, with copied skills lasting for 60 seconds. It also has a 10% chance to completely avoid incoming damage, increases stat gains by 10%, and gives access to Infinity Tech mode, which removes the full blindness penalty from skill copying once unlocked. Finally, Jang is the survival specialist, automatically healing from 10% health back to 25% and stunning nearby players for 2 seconds when its emergency passive activates, although it comes with a 5-minute cooldown. It also increases stamina scaling by 15%, stat gains by 10%, and grants access to Animal Instinct mode for even more low health combat power. So while every S tier clan has its own specialty, they all share one thing: these are the clans that can genuinely shape an entire build and remain powerful from progression all the way into serious endgame combat. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.